Hello everyone, I'm Sophie Gregoire Trudeau and we're here at the BrainMind Summit and I'm with Lenz Lock. Welcome.
Sophie, it's great to be here.
Tell us, what do you do, what are you passionate about, why are you here?
I am a person who is passionate about creating a social movement. I work for AARP, that's the United States' largest nonprofit, nonpartisan advocacy organization for people over 50. And I work in the policy and brain health space.
In a society where aging is an insult, how much creativity are we losing to this concept that we have of aging?
Oh, it's so interesting that you asked me that question. People who live their lives are constantly gaining experience and events in their lives that make their expression in any art form more rich and more vital. If you think about artists who hit their stride, it's usually in their later years. For example, Claude Monet started painting when he was 30, but he was dallying, really. It wasn't until he hit his 50s and 60s that the artworks that we all know about became famous. When he turned 75, he did the water lilies. And so that is what he is most known for. Georgia O'Keeffe was 99 when she died. She was transformational from the 1888 when she was born until almost 100 years later. So think about the artists that you know and love and think about how rich their work has gotten over their lifespan.
From a gender equality perspective, do you think that because the aging woman is almost more of an insult and we don't want to be, we're not even represented in society and in mass media, and that's changing a little bit, but how do you think that that's affecting our creativity as women?
Well, you know, it's so interesting. There's this myth that creativity and innovation happens only in the youth. Well, we know that's not true because you and I are older than what some people call young, right? But when you become older, you realize that. But when you're young, you have this notion that everything fresh and new happens in your 20s.
And that you're going to live forever.
Well, hopefully you're going to live forever.
Yeah, right.
Actually, that's one of the things that AARP is trying to dispel, is this idea that cognitive decline is inevitable as you age. We know from our research that about 60% of people think that that's true. Well, you know that's not true. If you pause and you think about older people in your lives that you know and respect, you know that they're perfectly cognitively intact. But somehow that's not the image society grabs a hold of. And instead, it's one of decline instead of possibilities. But I'm here to tell you, and anybody who's reached the age of 50 and older, can tell you we're still here and we have so much more to give.
You bet. But do you think that it is possible to become more creative as we age in a culture that's not really teaching us that? Because in the end, we will kind of save and love what we understand and what we've been taught.
You know, I love that question, Sophie, because you'll talk to so many people who are hampered in their youth by just trying to make ends meet, how to figure out how to economically survive in the world. Lots of times by the time that you get older and you figured out, oh, I can make a living, I know how to survive, you then stop thinking necessarily only about the practical and you can begin to think about your legacy, your future, what you really want to do. And so it's a wonderful time to think about your what's next, even if you haven't been artistic and creative in your earlier years. Now you've got a little bit more freedom and a little more space to experiment. And it's a wonderful time to be alive because the possibilities are endless. If you have hearing and sight issues, we're coming up with solutions that can help that. We're coming up with technology so that you can embrace it and find ways to be creative in ways that perhaps you weren't able to do in the past. So it's an incredibly exciting time to be alive and to be older.
Can creativity help us live longer lives?
Absolutely. You know, there is some way that creativity binds people together. When you're creative, you're trying to share with someone else what you're experiencing or what you want to express. And that brings other people to you. And so it's really important not to become isolated and lonely as you age. Creativity is a way of connecting with others. And it doesn't matter what age you are.
No, and you're also an expert on policy and age-related diseases. How can we work in prevention with creativity?
So prevention is the idea that if you build your cognitive resilience, you can be resistant to disease. And that's a very important message to get out in society.
And it's true.
Oh, it's very true. One of the things I do is direct the Global Council on Brain Health. And we, over the last decade, have been bringing scientists together to understand what do we know already in science about what works and what doesn't to maintain your brain health as you age. And in fact, we know that things like diet, exercise, social connectedness, getting sleep, all of these, what we call the 6 pillars of brain health, are really important for your brain health. But creativity in particular, you're using your cognitive faculties. It's that cognitive function. You're stimulating your brain in ways, and that's incredibly important. A lot of people talk about it in the terms of, well, if I play a brain game, that will be cognitively stimulating. Not so much. If you train your brain to do something over and over again, you get better at that task. But that may not necessarily translate to other parts of your life. Creativity, dance, movement, singing, creating art, all of those things actually do translate into function and improved functional ability over a lifespan. So being creative not only is helping you, but you're sharing with others. And so you're getting multiple benefits at building and fostering cognitive resilience. You're actually having your neurons in your brain build stronger connections, and those synapses work and fire, and so your brain function actually works better.
And that's from a prevention side. What about treating age-related diseases with creativity, with art, with movement? What's the greatest finding these days? What gets you excited?
Well, even for people in the latest stages of dementia, when most everyone else has given up on that person, we know that through music and through creativity that you still show your humanness inside. It's one of the most moving things if you have seen somebody living with dementia and virtually everything has been taken from them in their outwardly functioning evidence of being human, but you put on music and people that are catatonic will literally come alive.
There's so many examples and so many friends, families of this. It's so touching. What happens in the brain when somebody is actually in a catatonic state or, is not available to respond, and all of a sudden you see an awakening in the face and in the facial expressions and in energy? What's happening?
So music is one of the last preserved functions. And why is that? It's because there's probably nothing more potent that touches more synapses and different sections of the brain. So even if certain regions of the brain are atrophied or not working properly, music and the connections that music creates in rhythms in all different sections of your brain is pulling that connectivity together. And that's what's stimulating the brain and providing those reactions.
So imagine if we started with creativity and arts and music and movement early, we'd be able to stimulate those regions of the brain that would become somehow more resilient with age.
Exactly. Exactly. You're building up, it's like you're creating stronger and more neural pathways in the brain so that if one area goes down, you have 10 more to create. And so if we start at young ages and build up that resilience over time, we're going to reach old age in a much better condition.
You've had a stint in politics?
I used to work on Capitol Hill, yes.
So tell us, does that impair or ignite creativity?
Well, it's quite interesting. the most creative policymakers are the ones who look for possibilities and they find the interesting ways, and they're actually bringing people together in new and creative ways. So although you can get quite cynical in political arenas, the people who are most positioned to bring good are the ones who are looking for those social connections in all different walks of life. And so yes, there can be creativity in politics, and I hope that ARP actually plays its part in that.
Great, I've seen it too firsthand, so I agree with you. What about safety? We live in a world where most people in our nervous system are stuck in the sympathetic branch of alert because we're chronically stressed, and we think that there's a saber-toothed tiger in the room when there is none, but the stressors are so common and frequent that we're chronically stuck there, and we're tired, and we're depleted, and we're overstressed. So how can creativity help us better titrate between our sympathetic and parasympathetic, between our stress state and our more relaxed state?
Sophie, I don't claim to be an expert in that, but I will tell you that I have heard when we convened experts on stress management about these issues, that people actually do need some element of stress in their lives. It's about learning to manage and harness that stress in ways, and creativity actually helps in some senses of that.
To manage the stresses of life.
Exactly.
That's where it comes in. Beautiful. What would you like to say to people who will be attending this summit or speaking? First of all, what do you take away from it? What's important to you here?
Well, just it reinforces the importance of the interdisciplinary approach to solving problems. That in science, in art, in finance, in economics, in politics, it's by bringing all of those fields together that we're going to be able to make the difference to solve some of our biggest challenges.
Agreed. What would you tell an upcoming speaker, a young one, let's say?
Have fun.
There we go. That's how you keep it a healthy brain. And actually, because you're a specialist in longevity and aging, what would you tell somebody who might be invited and who is at the end of their career or reaching a point of a pivot point, right, in their life curve in a way?
There is so much intergenerativity that you have to be able to give the lessons that you've learned, to bring the information that you've gathered over a lifetime, and to actually have meaning and purpose in life, to share that with younger people. That is your great gift and ability.
And we have to get the young and old together. And this is what we're doing at the Brain Summit as well. Perfect. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you, Sophie.
Thank you.